Welcome to the Gaming Couch's QuickScope, where we count down some of the biggest gaming news of the past week. In this episode, CD Projekt Red can't catch a break, get your wallets ready for Nvidia's GeForce RTX 3080 Ti, Nintendo lets us know what to expect for E3, the sequel to 2018's God of War has been pushed back to 2022, and the official schedule for E3 has been unveiled. So thank you for being here, and let's jump right in. CD Projekt Red just can't catch a break. We learned this week that 4 separate lawsuits against the studio have been combined into one mega lawsuit, and we know that 2 of those suits date back from December 2020. They were brought against CDPR by investors who claimed that they were misled by the studio in regard to Cyberpunk 2077's playability and overall quality on previous-gen consoles, specifically the PS4 and Xbox One. We don't have any details about the other 2 suits, but it's safe to assume that they're similar in nature, given that they've been grouped up with the other ones. But things get worse. During a recent investor relations meeting centered on the company's first quarter results, CDPR President Adam Kaczynski refused to disclose Cyberpunk's Q1 numbers. Instead, he said that Cyberpunk did draw in about 60% of CDPR's revenue, and that most of those sales came from purchases on PC. Of course, CDPR still hasn't been able to get Cyberpunk 2077 back on the PlayStation Store. Now, putting 2 and 2 together, it can be inferred that Cyberpunk sales aren't in the best place right now. The game had a frankly terrible launch, with many people sharing videos of glitches more so than actual gameplay, not to mention that the game was barely playable on previous-gen consoles. And as if that wasn't bad enough, do you remember back in February when hackers breached the studio and stole the source codes for The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Gwent, and an unreleased version of The Witcher 3 which we now know to be the next-gen version? Well, it appears that the stolen source codes are beginning to appear on torrent sites. CDPR has committed itself to getting Cyberpunk on track, and they continue to push out updates, but in the meantime, it's clear that they have a lot more on their plate. Nvidia's GeForce RTX 3080 Ti, the company's new flagship gaming GPU, launched on June 3rd. And to mark the occasion, Nvidia also showed off some Doom Eternal running at 4K with ray tracing enabled, and the performance is honestly very impressive. The game reached upwards of 100 frames per second even in high action areas, and according to the performance info, that was without DLSS enabled. In terms of raw performance, the 3080 Ti runs games twice as fast as the GTX 1080 Ti, and 1.5 times faster than the GeForce RTX 2080 Ti at 4K. It offers ultra performance in gaming, ray traced workloads, rendering, and GPU accelerated applications. In rasterized and ray-traced games, performance is 1.5 times faster, and when you're rendering in Blender, V-Ray, or other applications, performance is up to twice as fast than the last gen. It also features 3rd-gen Tensor cores for amazing DLSS performance boosts, 2nd-gen RT cores to accelerate ray tracing, and the latest streaming multiprocessors to turbocharge traditional games. And yeah, it comes with 12GB of super-fast GDDR6X memory. Of course, all that performance doesn't come for cheap. The 3080 Ti will run you about $1,199 US. But hey, can you put a price on power? Especially with that Crysis Remastered trilogy coming out. Nintendo took to Twitter on June 2nd to unveil its E3 plans. A Direct and a Treehouse will be shown on June 15th at the tail end of E3. Viewers should expect about 40 minutes of information during the Direct, and then the Treehouse showcase will feature approximately 3 hours of gameplay. Interestingly, Nintendo's tweet specified that the Direct will focus exclusively on Nintendo Switch software. Of course, the rumors of an upgraded Nintendo Switch have been intensifying over the last week. After a supposed leak from a Chinese manufacturer, a listing for a new Nintendo Switch Pro on Amazon Mexico, and earlier this week, a listing on a French retailer's website, an upgraded Switch has been the center of attention in the world of gaming rumors. But Nintendo's mention on a focus on software can mean one of 2 things. According to last week's rumors, Nintendo will announce an upgraded Nintendo Switch before E3. The idea being that it will give developers a chance to present and discuss new games that make the most of the upgraded console's features. On the other hand, the rumors could have been just completely false and Nintendo doesn't have anything planned in regard to new hardware. But that seems highly unlikely. At any rate, if we have to find out anything about a new Nintendo Switch, it'll be this week before E3 begins on June 12th. Santa Monica Studios announced on June 2nd that the sequel to 2018's God of War is being delayed until 2022. Without giving too many specifics, the studio did write that maintaining the safety and well-being of our team, creative partners, and families is an important objective. Prior to that tweet, an interview with Herman Hulst, head of PlayStation Studios, was posted to the official PlayStation blog, and it gave fans lots of information about highly anticipated games, including God of War. One particular question centered on how studios have adapted to the COVID-19 pandemic. Hulst answered, "For God of War, the project started a little later, so we've made the decision to push that game out to next year to ensure that Santa Monica Studio can deliver the amazing God of War game that we all want to play." Hulst added that, "With these things, something's gotta give. It can't be the quality of our titles, and it surely won't be the health or the well-being of our amazing team." Now, as disappointing as the delay could be, it's important to look at the bright side of things. In the interview with Hulst, we also learned that God of War's sequel will be coming to PlayStation 4. Well, it's that time of the year, folks. E3 is upon us. The All Digital Gaming Expo begins on Saturday, June 12th, with the pre-show beginning at 10 a.m. Pacific on that day. The official schedule was revealed on June 3rd, so those who tune in on the 12th can see presentations by Ubisoft and Gearbox. June 13th will open with Microsoft and Bethesda's highly anticipated games showcase, which will then be followed by presentations from Square Enix, the PC Gaming Show, and the Future Games Show. On top of those shows, you can tune in to watch WB Games, see some Back 4 Blood, and 24 Entertainment will also be featured. But if you want more, there will also be presentations from Take-Two, Mythical Games, Razer, Capcom, and indie developers. E3's final day is on the 15th of June, starting with the Nintendo Direct and Treehouse showcases at 9 a.m. Pacific. Following Nintendo, you can watch presentations by Bandai Namco, Eureka Games, and a GameSpot event. Concluding the expo will be the E3 2021 awards show, in which editors from several gaming news websites will determine the most anticipated game of E3, as well as the most anticipated game from each participating developer or publisher. If you're interested in joining in the fun, fan registration is now open, so you can head to E3's official website and sign up. Well, that'll do it for this edition of QuickScope. Remember that you can always head over to thegamingcouch.com for more news, reviews, opinions, and a bunch of cool stuff. Thanks for tuning in. For The Gaming Couch, I'm Jameson Worth. Have a great week, and I'll see you here next Sunday.